Hello, resilient Scorpio. If the opening days of July have felt quieter than you expected, don't mistake that silence for a lack of movement. Some of life's most meaningful changes begin beneath the surface, where they cannot yet be measured or explained. As July 5 and 6 unfold, you may notice a quiet sense that something within you has begun to shift. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you have. Think about everything you've carried without asking for recognition. The moments when you kept going even though no one seemed to notice, the private hopes you protected, and the parts of yourself that learned patience through uncertainty. What if those experiences were never meant to delay your path, but to prepare you to recognize opportunities that only this version of you could truly receive? If your intuition has been gently nudging you lately, listen closely. Scorpio often senses transformation long before it becomes visible, and this may be one of those seasons. This is less about predicting the future than noticing the quiet ways your life is beginning to respond differently. The current around you feels as though it is changing direction, inviting you to move with it instead of pushing against it. You may have already felt small signs that are difficult to explain. Perhaps you've been drawn to simplify your surroundings, spend more time alone, or slow your pace without fully understanding why. Those moments are not necessarily random. They can reflect an inner realignment, like roots growing deeper before new branches appear, preparing you for growth that will soon become visible. The gifts emerging now may include practical opportunities, but their deepest value reaches beyond career or finances. This season carries the possibility of greater inner steadiness, clearer purpose, and a renewed trust in yourself. Instead of chasing proof that you're on the right path, you may begin to recognize that your own quiet confidence has become the foundation that allows new experiences to find you. Imagine a river that has spent months carving its way through stone. From the surface, very little seems to change, yet beneath the water, everything is gradually reshaped. Personal transformation often unfolds in much the same way. By the time visible change appears, the deeper work has already been happening for longer than anyone could see. Before we continue, take a moment to acknowledge what this message awakens within you. If these words resonate, leave a comment that reflects your intention. You might write, "I welcome the energy of renewal," or "I choose clarity, courage, and peaceful growth." Speaking your intention is less about convincing the universe and more about recognizing the direction your own heart is already beginning to take. And if these messages have brought you comfort, clarity, or encouragement, and you'd like to help keep this channel growing, I'd love to invite you to support us. Our goal for this new month of July is simply to raise $100 to help cover the costs of creating and maintaining these videos. If you feel called to be part of that journey, you can support the channel through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Whether it's a donation or simply your continued presence here, every act of kindness helps this space continue reaching the people who need it most. Thank you, truly, for walking this path with us. There are seasons when waiting can make you question your path, especially when it feels like others are moving ahead while your own progress remains invisible. Yet growth is not always measured by what appears on the outside. Sometimes your greatest transformation happens while you are learning to release old defenses, trust yourself again, and make space for a life that reflects who you have become. July 5 and 6 may serve as a gentle reminder that you are no longer standing where you once were. Rather than marking an ending, these days can symbolize the beginning of a quieter, steadier chapter, one built on self-awareness instead of struggle. Like the first light spreading across still water before sunrise, this energy doesn't demand your attention with noise. It simply asks whether you are ready to receive what your own transformation has already been preparing you for. For you, Scorpio, this season carries a deeply personal invitation. Transformation has never been about becoming someone else. It has always been about uncovering the parts of yourself that remain steady beneath every challenge, quietly enduring even when life seemed determined to test your resolve. After carrying emotional weight for so long, you may begin to notice that what once felt uncertain is becoming remarkably clear. Questions that once lingered in your mind no longer demand immediate answers, because something deeper inside you has found its footing. The version of yourself emerging now is calmer, wiser, and far less interested in proving anything than simply living in alignment with what feels true. Sometimes life responds in unexpected ways. The path doesn't always reveal itself while you're forcing every step forward. Often it becomes visible only after you've loosened your grip and allowed yourself to trust what your intuition has been quietly showing you all along. If you've recently felt drawn to slow your pace, simplify your surroundings, or spend more time in quiet reflection, don't dismiss those impulses. They may be signs that your inner world is creating space for a new chapter before it fully arrives. Just as a forest grows strongest beneath the soil long before new leaves appear, your life may be preparing itself in ways that are still invisible but no less real. It's easy to mistake ease for inactivity, especially if you spend years believing that everything worthwhile must be earned through struggle. Yet there are moments when peace is not a pause in your journey but proof that you found a healthier rhythm. What begins flowing toward you now may do so because you've stopped measuring your worth by constant effort. Choosing acceptance instead of resistance isn't giving up. It's recognizing that wisdom often accomplishes what force never could. There is quiet strength in allowing life to meet you halfway, especially after spending so much time believing every door had to be pushed open through persistence alone. Perhaps you've carried hopes that were spoken only in private moments or dreams you rarely shared aloud. Whether through quiet reflection, prayer, or simple determination, you continued moving forward even when the results seemed invisible. That unseen perseverance matters. Every small decision to keep believing, every moment you chose patience over business, has shaped the person you are becoming. If your heart feels steadier than it once did, allow yourself to trust that feeling. You are entering a season that asks you to receive with openness, instead of exhausting yourself trying to control every outcome. The opportunities approaching you may not arrive with dramatic announcements. More often they appear with surprising simplicity, almost as though life has been quietly rearranging itself while you were focused on your own healing. What once seemed distant can begin moving naturally into reach, not because luck suddenly changed, but because your perspective, your choices, and your inner foundation have evolved. When you change at your core, the way you experience the world often changes with you. You may find yourself recognizing possibilities that were always nearby, but could only be seen once your confidence became rooted in something deeper than uncertainty. Rather than one dramatic breakthrough, you may notice several meaningful shifts unfolding together, each touching a different part of your life. In your work or sense of purpose, a role, collaboration, or unexpected direction could emerge that feels less like a challenge to conquer and more like a place where your strengths genuinely belong. Instead of creating tension, it brings relief. Your body may recognize the right opportunity before your mind has finished analyzing it. Pay attention to the moments that leave you feeling lighter rather than more burdened. Sometimes your deepest sense of certainty arrives as quiet relief instead of overwhelming excitement. Another gift of this season is a growing sense of emotional steadiness. You may feel called to journal, spend time near water, light a candle, or simply create more quiet in your daily routine. These moments are not signs that you're withdrawing from life. They are gentle forms of renewal. Your mind, your body, and your emotions are gradually adjusting to the person you are becoming, and that process deserves patience as much as action. Like water smoothing stone over time, lasting change often comes through consistency rather than intensity. Real healing rarely announces itself with dramatic moments. More often, it arrives as deeper breathing, calmer mornings, clearer decisions, and the realization that old fears no longer carry the same weight they once did. You may notice yourself responding differently to situations that once unsettled you, or recovering more quickly from disappointments that would have lingered in the past. Listen carefully to what your body is telling you. Sometimes your greatest progress happens while everything on the outside appears wonderfully ordinary, and those quiet victories often become the foundation for far greater changes ahead. There may also be practical rewards that reflect the work you've invested over time. An overlooked opportunity, unexpected financial support, a delayed payment, or an offer that arrives at just the right moment could remind you that consistent effort has its own quiet momentum. These experiences are meaningful not simply because they improve your circumstances, but because they mirror the confidence and stability you've been building within yourself. They remind you that inner transformation often creates outer movement in ways that are impossible to predict, but deeply satisfying once they unfold. The most valuable change, however, may not be found in any opportunity or material gain. It may be found in the way these blessings arrive without requiring you to abandon your peace to receive them. In a world that often celebrates constant striving, you are discovering another kind of strength, the courage to trust your own timing. You no longer have to sacrifice your well-being to prove your commitment or exhaust yourself in pursuit of validation. As your spirit grows more settled, life seems to respond with greater ease, reminding you that sometimes the deepest transformation begins the moment you stop chasing and allow yourself to welcome what has been making its way toward you all along. And when that moment arrives, you'll recognize that the greatest gift was never simply what came into your life, but the person you became while learning how to receive it. If something unexpected begins to unfold during July 5 or 6, take a moment before questioning it. Perhaps an opportunity appears in your inbox. Someone reaches out with an idea that feels both surprising and promising, or a financial concern eases in a way you hadn't anticipated. Rather than wondering whether you've done enough to deserve it, allow yourself to receive it with gratitude and quiet confidence. Sometimes the most meaningful changes arrive without fanfare, entering your life as naturally as morning light spreading across still water. They rarely demand your attention with noise. Instead, they invite you to notice how differently you respond now compared to the person you were only a few months ago. Not every blessing announces itself with dramatic moments. Many of life's turning points begin almost invisibly, becoming noticeable only after your heart has finally made room for them. There are seasons when it seems as though nothing is happening, yet beneath the surface your life is slowly rearranging itself. Like roots stretching deeper before a tree reaches toward the sky, much of the most important work happens where no one else can see it. As you become more willing to trust your own growth, opportunities that once felt distant may begin finding their way toward you with surprising ease. What once looked like delay may reveal itself as careful preparation. There may also be moments when a person unexpectedly enters your life, or someone from your past quietly returns. Your mind may search for practical explanations, but another part of you may simply recognize the encounter as meaningful. This isn't necessarily about fate or perfect timing. It's about meeting people from a different version of yourself, one shaped by experience, healing, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Sometimes the greatest change isn't who appears in your life, but the perspective from which you greet them. For Scorpio, relationships often become mirrors for personal transformation, rather than destinations in themselves. The connections that matter now are less likely to revolve around intensity alone, and more likely to grow through honesty, mutual respect, and emotional safety. Whether this person becomes a trusted friend, mentor, creative partner, or romantic interest, what stands out is not how quickly the bond forms, but how naturally it allows you to remain fully yourself. The conversations may feel lighter, yet somehow more genuine, because you're no longer carrying the same need to protect every vulnerable part of your heart. If someone from your past crosses your path again, you may notice that the conversation feels different, even if the faces are familiar. That change doesn't necessarily mean they have transformed completely. More often it reflects how much you have evolved. Old patterns no longer carry the same influence, allowing new possibilities to emerge where old expectations once stood. You may find yourself listening more calmly, speaking more honestly, or realizing that wounds which once defined the relationship no longer hold the same power over you. You may also meet someone entirely new who seems to arrive with remarkable ease, as though your paths were quietly moving toward one another all along. Rather than rushing to define the relationship, allow it to develop at its own pace. Some of the strongest connections begin with a simple sense of comfort, a conversation that feels unexpectedly genuine, or the quiet realization that you don't need to perform or protect yourself to be understood. Trust the relationships that leave you feeling more peaceful after you spend time together rather than emotionally drained. Those often become the ones capable of growing with you over time. From an astrological perspective, Periods that encourage emotional renewal often heighten your awareness of meaningful encounters. Without claiming certainty about any single transit, it's worth paying attention if someone feels strangely familiar, if an old dream returns with fresh meaning, or if you feel an unexplainable pull to reconnect with someone you've been thinking about. Intuition doesn't always arrive with answers. Sometimes it simply invites you to stay present long enough to notice what your heart already understands. Reflection often reveals what constant analysis cannot. The important thing is this: no one is entering your life to rescue you. That chapter belongs to the past. The healthiest relationships are built when two people meet from a place of self-awareness rather than emotional dependence. Real closeness doesn't ask you to disappear into someone else's story. Instead, it creates space for both people to grow without losing themselves. The strongest bonds are often the ones where both individuals feel encouraged to become more fully who they already are. If you've been wondering whether you're ready to walk alongside someone instead of carrying everything alone, this season may gently answer that question. The deeper invitation isn't simply to welcome another person. It's to recognize how much you changed, how much you healed, and how much easier it has become to let yourself be seen without hiding behind old defenses. Vulnerability may no longer feel like a risk to survive, but a quiet expression of confidence in the life you've been building. Should a familiar name return to your thoughts, a dream linger after you wake, or an unexpected meeting leave a lasting impression, resist the urge to explain it immediately. Sit with the feeling for a while. Some experiences reveal their meaning gradually, like reflections becoming clearer as the surface of a lake grows still. Whether they become lasting relationships or meaningful lessons, they often arrive because your own growth has created space for them. Sometimes clarity isn't something you chase. It's something that gently rises to the surface once you stop disturbing the water. There is one symbol that quietly echoes this stage of your journey: the number 7. Throughout history, 7 has often represented reflection, wisdom, and the courage to seek deeper truth. As these early days of July unfold, let it remind you that lasting abundance begins within. Every meaningful transformation starts with a willingness to know yourself more honestly than before. The more fully you trust your own transformation, the more naturally your outer world begins to reflect the strength, clarity, and quiet confidence you have been cultivating all along. In many ways, the opportunities ahead are not arriving to change who you are. They are arriving because you've already begun to change from within. As July 5th and 6th unfold, you may find yourself standing at a quiet threshold, one that invites reflection more than reaction. Rather than asking you to push harder or prove yourself again, this moment encourages you to pause and consider how closely your daily choices reflect the life you're hoping to create. Growth often begins not with dramatic action, but with a willingness to participate consciously in your own becoming. One symbol that beautifully reflects this season is the number 7. Throughout many spiritual and philosophical traditions, 7 has represented wisdom, introspection, and the patient search for deeper truth. Instead of measuring success only by what you achieve, this energy reminds you to consider how well you're able to carry what life places in your hands with clarity, responsibility, and quiet confidence. Personal strength isn't only about attracting opportunities, it's also about being ready to nurture them when they arrive. If you sensed your own potential before but hesitated to fully step into it, this may be an ideal time to explore what has been holding you back. The invitation isn't to chase another version of yourself. It's to recognize the one that has been gradually emerging through every challenge you've already faced. Sometimes claiming your next chapter begins with believing that you no longer need to earn the right to live it. Simple personal rituals can become meaningful anchors during periods of reflection, not because they possess magical power on their own, but because they help focus your attention on what truly matters. Consider taking a few quiet moments to write down the beliefs, fears, habits, or emotional burdens that no longer feel aligned with the person you're becoming. You may be surprised by what rises to the surface when you give yourself permission to be completely honest. Instead of judging those old patterns, acknowledge them with compassion. They served a purpose at one point, even if that purpose has now been fulfilled. After writing them down, you might fold the page and place it beneath a bowl of water overnight, symbolizing your willingness to let those emotions settle and soften. The ritual itself is less important than the intention behind it, creating space for something healthier to grow. Transformation doesn't require rejecting your past. More often, it asks you to understand it differently. Every difficult season has contributed something to the resilience, insight, and emotional maturity you carry today. Rather than trying to erase who you once were, allow yourself to appreciate how each experience shaped the person now preparing for a new chapter. You may also find comfort in surrounding yourself with colors that encourage stillness and reflection. Deep midnight blue can evoke calm awareness, while rich burgundy often symbolizes inner strength, renewal, and emotional depth. These aren't rules or guarantees. They simply serve as gentle reminders of the qualities you may wish to cultivate as this season continues to unfold. You don't need elaborate ceremonies or perfect conditions to reconnect with yourself. Sometimes the simplest gesture carries the greatest meaning. Rest your hand over your heart, take a slow breath, and speak your intention aloud with sincerity. What matters isn't how loudly you say the words, but how honestly you believe them. You might choose an affirmation such as, "I welcome clarity, steady growth, and the courage to trust my own path." In speaking those words, you're not making a promise to the universe alone. You're making one to yourself. Lasting change rarely begins with extraordinary moments. More often, it begins with ordinary choices, repeated with intention, patience, and faith in the person you are steadily becoming. Whatever your personal beliefs may be, there is something undeniably powerful about creating enough quiet to hear your own inner voice again. Whether you think of that experience as spiritual, psychological, or simply a deeper form of self-awareness, the effect can be remarkably similar. When the noise around you begins to settle, you often discover that the wisdom you've been searching for has been patiently waiting within you all along. When you move through life with greater clarity, even the smallest intentional choices begin to shape the world around you. As these first days of July continue to unfold, imagine the quiet symbolism of the number 7 inviting you inward. It isn't asking you to become someone new. Instead, it encourages you to trust the wisdom you've already earned and to step forward with greater awareness. Every experience that challenged you, every difficult conversation, and every season of uncertainty has quietly added another layer to that wisdom, even if you didn't recognize it at the time. The real question is no longer, when will my life change? It has gently become, am I ready to embrace the person I've been growing into? Scorpio, if you pause long enough to listen, you may notice the answer doesn't come from endless thinking. It rises from a steadier place within you, from the quiet confidence that has been forming through every challenge you've faced. There comes a moment when you realize you no longer need permission from your past, from other people, or from old fears that once kept you small. The path ahead hasn't suddenly appeared. You've simply become ready to recognize it. Like the first light before sunrise, it was already there, waiting for your eyes to adjust, rather than for the landscape to change. It's easy to believe that your worth depends on recognition, achievement, or someone else's approval. Many of us are taught to think that peace must be earned through exhaustion and that success only counts if everyone else acknowledges it. Yet genuine transformation often begins when those beliefs begin to fall away. Layer by layer, you release expectations that no longer belong to you, and remember the strength that existed long before you questioned it. As those old stories lose their hold, you may notice something unexpected, the freedom to make choices based on inner conviction instead of external validation. From an astrological perspective, some of the most meaningful transitions happen quietly within, rather than through dramatic events outside of us. Personal growth is reflected not only by changing circumstances, but by the way you respond to them. You may notice yourself speaking more honestly, protecting your peace more carefully, and trusting your own instincts without feeling the need to explain every decision. Small reactions begin to change before major events ever do. That is often the first sign that your inner landscape has shifted. This is the kind of maturity that quietly changes the course of a life. Preparing for a new chapter is rarely passive. It can look like creating healthier boundaries, letting go of relationships or habits that no longer support you, making space for new possibilities, and choosing what genuinely resonates instead of what simply feels familiar. Sometimes preparation is as simple as saying no without guilt, resting without apologizing, or allowing yourself to imagine a future that once felt impossible. These choices may appear small from the outside, yet together they become powerful evidence that you trust yourself more deeply than you once did. Over time, this creates a quiet confidence that doesn't depend on attention or applause. You no longer need every step to be validated before taking it. You simply continue walking, allowing your actions to reflect the person you've become. There is a calm resilience that develops when your identity is rooted in your values rather than in other people's opinions. Often the greatest miracle isn't an unexpected opportunity appearing out of nowhere. It's realizing that you no longer abandon yourself while waiting for one. If you spent a long season simply trying to get through each day, always hoping the next opportunity would finally change everything, this period invites a different perspective. The kindness you've shown yourself, the boundaries you've learned to keep, and the difficult truths you've been willing to face have all become seeds beneath the surface. Their growth may have been invisible for a while, but that doesn't make it any less real. Like roots strengthening beneath the soil before a tree reaches higher into the sky, your foundation has been quietly preparing you for greater stability. Perhaps this is the moment to stop asking whether you're allowed to move forward and begin trusting that you're ready. Your resilience wasn't created overnight, and neither was your growth. Every difficult season has contributed something valuable, even if you couldn't recognize it at the time. Even the moments that felt like setbacks may have been teaching patience, discernment, or self-respect in ways that only become clear with distance. Sometimes life doesn't reveal the next step until you begin believing that you are capable of taking it. Take a quiet moment to let that possibility settle within you. So many people postpone their lives while waiting for certainty, believing everything must be perfectly arranged before they can move ahead. Yet meaningful change often begins with a simple inner decision, a quiet yes that no one else hears but that changes everything from that point forward. That quiet agreement with yourself often becomes the turning point long before anyone else notices that anything has changed. What if the delays you've experienced weren't signs that you were being denied, but opportunities to develop the wisdom you'll need for what's ahead? What if July 5th and 6th become less about a date on the calendar and more about recognizing a new season of personal renewal? You've invested time in healing, reflecting, and becoming more honest with yourself. Those efforts may now begin revealing themselves through new opportunities, healthier relationships, and a stronger sense of purpose. What unfolds next may feel less like something arriving from the outside and more like the natural continuation of everything you've already been becoming. So ask yourself gently, what part of your life has been waiting for your permission to grow? What possibility have you been quietly standing beside without realizing the door was already open? You don't have to be fearless to move forward. You only need to be willing to take the next honest step. Courage is rarely the absence of uncertainty. More often, it's the decision to keep moving with an open heart, even when you cannot yet see the entire path. If these words resonate with you, let them become more than a passing thought. Leave a comment and affirm your intention in your own words. You might write, "I welcome this new chapter with courage and clarity," or "I trust the person I am becoming." Simple declarations like these are reminders of the commitments you choose to make to yourself each day. Speaking those intentions aloud can also become a quiet way of acknowledging the progress you've already made and the direction you're choosing from this moment forward. Thank you for sharing this moment with an open heart. Your presence, your reflections, and your willingness to grow help create community built on encouragement and self-discovery. Every thoughtful comment and shared experience adds another voice to a space where people are reminded that growth is rarely a journey taken alone. If today's message stays with you, carry it into the days ahead. Let it influence your choices, strengthen your trust, and remind you that the next chapter doesn't begin because you became perfect. It begins because you finally believed you were ready to walk toward it.